that. Trump, unfortunately, he was right about CNN. CNN fake news, right? That's Trump's credit, except he just did a town hall with them, so he keeps them alive. And they need him for clicks, so it becomes this very twisted game that these guys are playing. The New York Times, he'll tell you they're the failing New York Times, and then who does he give access to more than anyone else? Maggie Haberman at the New York Times. DeSantis is doing the workaround that we've all been asking for. He's going to Twitter Spaces.
Don't get me started, Dave.
He's not being interviewed by NBC because they keep lying about him.
Or me. What? Seriously, it's not about me, but he's got to grow a pair. Like, come on for an adversarial interview. Go with somebody who's going to ask you some tough questions. Be a man. I'm sick of like the duck and cover drill that he's doing only with friendly media. Would you grow up? I'm not adverse to DeSantis, but he is going to get some tough questions. Who has he done? Who has he done that's asked him tough questions?
Well, first off, I 100% would be for DeSantis doing your show. He absolutely should.
Why is he not on the list? We've asked a million times. We asked again this round. He's too chicken.
Depending on who you are, this matchup either delights you or it brings fear and panic. DeSantis fans are oh so eager to convince you that the Florida governor is Trump in policy, but kinder. No, kinder isn't a good descriptor, is it? Let's say a more civil, well-mannered, and personality politician. And of course, Trump fans quickly point out that in just recent days, DeSantis has flipped positions on a handful of items that appear to be motivated by some of his donors. Now, there is a traditional Republican. DeSantis fans will argue that President Trump allowed Fauci to stay at his job, and it's a decent argument. But just imagine the reaction on the left if Trump would have fired Fauci in the middle of the pandemic. Civil war, anyone? But hey, keep living in that fantasy world that the left and the media will be completely normal and civil with the DeSantis presidency. It's so cute. Trump followers will remind you that DeSantis would not have his current job without the president's endorsement. And any DeSantis fan worth their salt would say, either would Mitch McConnell or Lindsey Graham. DeSantis people will argue that he leads Biden head-to-head in a handful of polls. Trump supporters will then point out that their man does too and has a 40 to 50% lead over DeSantis amongst primary voters. DeSantis raised $8.2 million in his first 24 hours compared to Biden's $6.3. But Trump supporters will remind you that Orange Man Bad raised $25 million. DeSantis can claim the miraculous flipping of two shenanigan-practicing, heavily Democrat counties in Florida, and this is obviously a huge plus in my book. Trump can then properly argue the largest increase in support for any incumbent in the modern era. And of course, both are promising to battle the woke crazies that have taken over the United States government these last 3 years. Now is the time in the video where we cut through the BS a little bit. Trump is fighting like a heavyweight champion robbed of his dignity, rightful sense of accomplishment, and a job unfinished. Now, DeSantis, on the other hand, is kind of like that kid who can't wait to get into the ring. Both have talent, both have a rough sense of their opponent, but one has a mission. He was robbed and humiliated by a party of fools and a drooling carcass. So, he's not playing for second, folks. Both of these men have accomplished more in their terms in office than either were given the benefit of the doubt when they were running. Both have had to fight incredibly unfair media coverage and persevere forward. Both served their people well and deserved to be reelected. So my question boils down to where it always boils down to. True motivation. Trump's motives are clear. Undo Biden's damage and finish the damn job he started. DeSantis' well, they're a little bit trickier. Because if we believe his campaign speeches and the words coming out of his mouth, he should be focused on Florida. I'm just saying. Just a reminder, because apparently Republicans need to be reminded. Often. Trump never needed or probably ever wanted to be president. He ran originally because he felt that the nation was in so much trouble that if he did not disrupt everything that the left had done, we'd never get America back. He already had a nicer plane, a bigger house, and more amenities than anything that the White House had to offer. Am I wrong? Now that's unlike Joe Biden and so many others on both sides of the aisle that became wealthy beyond belief while in office. Trump lost personal wealth every year he was president. He also refused to take a dime of salary from the nation, donating his paychecks back to divisions of the nation that needed it. So what is Ron's true motivation? DeSantis' timing isn't driven by a calling of sacrifice, but more of a timetable, if you will, and shadow advisors whose agenda is for a Republican win without Orange Man bad. But CR, if he waits until 2028, his Florida term will be up, and he runs the risk of being irrelevant, or so that theory goes, which I'm not at all convinced that's true, by the way. You see, DeSantis will be 48 years old in 2028, and he'd have an even better narrative under his belt on the comeback of Florida than he has now. I think honest America First voters would like to see the ticket be Trump-DeSantis 2024. It appears the likelihood of that happening now grows very, very thin. You'll remember that Ted Cruz beat Trump in Iowa in 2016. Trump then beat Cruz narrowly in New Hampshire, and Trump squeezed by him again in South Carolina, even though it would take Trump until May in Indiana to finally eliminate Cruz. He did. I say that only to say that interestingly, Cruz had built the most impressive and most agile campaign operation of any candidate I'd ever witnessed, and it didn't matter. Also to say that DeSantis doesn't have half of what Cruz built. And I predict Trump will not lose even one of those three contests. And historically speaking, whoever wins South Carolina wins the primary. Also, in addition to Trump's overwhelming popularity in South Carolina, how does DeSantis break through the noise in that state with their most popular former governor and their beloved senator also running? Now, let me be clear, DeSantis has an incredible future. He has been sold some bad advice by people with bad intentions who likely don't really care about his outcome or his political future. They care about stopping Trump. Trump's support at this point is unmovable. The rest of the field, including DeSantis, doesn't add up to its equal. So Trump will be the nominee. I think it's also worth noting that DeSantis has been cautious to attack Trump. And to his credit, Trump's attacks on DeSantis have really been softballs compared to the cannon blasts he levied at the 2016 field. President Trump also has a really magnanimous way of making peace with former rivals, the 2016 field being a great example of that. The fisticuffs are likely to land some really tough blows in the near future, but these guys are just prepping for the corrupt process of the general election and the nastiness that the legacy media will no doubt unleash on either or. Make no mistake that when the smoke clears, Trump will be the nominee, as should any incumbent president who broke the record and had 11 million more people vote for him than did the first time around. There will be plenty more content about these two because it's a fascinating situation. So if you are too sensitive to handle the scrutiny, I'm sorry. But in my defense, this is the type of content I've been focusing on for years, and discussing the reactions inside the party is something I'm bound and determined to do. Most of this came by way of townhall.com. If you liked it, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, leave a comment down below. There's a PayPal link in the description box, so please put $1 in the bucket on the way out the door. I'd like to thank everyone for all your donations. They're much needed and much appreciated. Now, with all that being said, we'll see you next time.
Come on, move. Move. Easy, easy.